About politics. My name is Jarrett, and I am here to answer all of your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. So, any questions you got about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I do not judge, I do not roast, and I do not debate. I don't believe that debates are productive, so you're not going to see any debates here on this channel. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat and feel comforted by the knowledge that nobody's gonna yell at you or try to own you or try to prove that they're so much smarter than you. So yeah, throw your questions in the chat. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the place where you can ask all your questions and you don't have to worry about somebody making fun of you for not being informed or not. Omar says, thoughts on the midterms? It's looking good for Democrats. I think we need more people doing the work because I think that Democrats should win every single race in every single state. So until that happens, not enough people are doing the work. I am worried about the shit that Trump and the Republican Party are going to try to do to try to lie, cheat, and steal their way into election victory. So we need more people doing the work to keep that from happening as well. All right, FF says next president of US is Elon. Is that true? No, that is wildly not true. That is never going to happen. What is up, Willie? Good to see you again. Kanalinga says he does some of the math. Sure. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I do not judge, I do not roast, and I do not debate. I do not believe that debates are productive. So, it's the Rocketeer says, Happy Anime Body Pillow Monday. He forgot to add for all who celebrates. Welcome, everybody, to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jared, and I'm here to answer all your questions about politics, be they simple or complicated, be they left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I am not here to yell at you because of your political beliefs or how you voted in the past. I believe in engaging with people on the substance, even if they disagree with me politically, and then hopefully, maybe we can come to more of a shared understanding of what's actually going on in the world and in our government so that we can instead talk about how to solve problems instead of arguing over what are problems and what are not problems. So let's get back to a shared reality. Guys, throw your questions in the chat and we can all come together on what is actually going on. We can clear up any misinformation and propaganda that's out there because there's a ton of misinformation and propaganda out there. And so this is the show where you can clear up all the things that you were like, oh, I saw this on the internet and I wasn't sure if it was true. Paul says, do you think 2016 is likely the worst presidential race ever? Oh, no. I mean, if you watch the debate between Biden and Trump in 2020, that's like one of the most disgusting and embarrassing moments in American history. Not to mention January 6th. Like, that was a whole fucking thing also. Yeah, man. Yeah. And so I don't see it getting, it's definitely been worse since 2016, but yeah, and it could potentially get even worse than that, you know? Shork says, what happens if the strategic reserves are depleted? That's a really good question, Shork. I have no idea. I guess the answer is we begin restocking and we will just be more vulnerable until we are, or we won't be able to do any more foreign wars. We won't be able to bomb any more Iranian grade schools. So, you know, maybe that's good news. Tim Self Journey says, how many presidents have publicly farted themselves awake in a public meeting? I have no idea, Tim Self Journey. Do you know? Kanalinga says, they're not strategic, are they? The strategic reserves? I'm pretty sure they are. Brando says, can you explain what QAnon is? Sure. QAnon is this like online conspiracy theory that took off during the first Trump administration. So there was this guy named Q who claimed that he worked for the Trump administration and that he was assisting Trump in bringing down the deep state PDFs that were secretly in control of everything in the world. And this conspiracy theory took off and it was pretty anonymous if I remember correctly. But if I also remember correctly, I think that people have done a pretty good job of sleuthing who was behind it. Yeah, they made like a whole bunch of predictions, none of which came true. and people got like really into it, and people loved like following along and trying to solve the solve the mystery, which they thought was real. This was not like a fun online thing. Like people thought that this was like a real thing, that this guy Q was secretly helping Trump was part of this um crusade to unmask and root out all of the elite PDFs and baby eaters that secretly controlled the world from a bunker underneath the White House or some shit. It was all pretty bananas. Brando, does that explain it? Let me know. Larry Hall says, why does China not move on Taiwan? Really good question, Larry Hall. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it really does seem like if they were going to, like, now's the time, because Trump is not really invested in protecting Taiwan. Additionally, he's very bad at statecraft and diplomacy, so it's like, yeah, I would love to hear a theory about that. Lucas says, thoughts on Abdul El-Sayed? I think we need two of him in every state. I think Abdul El-Sayed is great. Nobody's perfect, so let's not go lionizing our politicians and expecting them to be the second coming. Mason says, have you ever thought about how often you've been wrong? Oh yeah, many times. And when I do say things that are incorrect, I try to figure out, like, all right, what was the miscommunication here? What was the thing that I read and misinterpreted? And then and then I just try to be honest about the things that I know and the things that I don't know. Mason. Okay, Mr. White says, is Russia truly to blame for the Ukraine war? Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty obvious. The country that invaded the other country, that's the country that's to blame. Okay, Kanalinga says, if you predict it, doesn't that stop it from happening? It's trying to experience the future too early. What are you talking about? QAnon? Or are you talking about China? What's going on? What is up, Ace Vault Empire? What is up, Muzzy? Muzzy says, so what do you think about the CIA and Mossad sharing intelligence? I mean, I think what you're referring to is this new sort of like agreement, this intelligence sharing agreement between America and Israel. America shares intelligence with a lot of different countries. I believe there's an organization called the Five Eyes. That's like the 5 major Western intelligence agencies that all kind of like share information together. So it's not unprecedented. It's possible that we're kind of like stepping things up because Republicans are in charge and they're down with doing whatever Israel tells them to do. All right, question mark says, will DC and Puerto Rico gain representation and statehood? Well, the only 2 things stopping that. The first is the citizens of Puerto Rico. If they don't want to be state, then they don't have to be a state. But the main thing is that the Republican Party is currently in charge of the White House, the judiciary, and Congress. And they do not want to make Puerto Rico a state. They do not want to give statehood and representation to D.C. because they believe that that would water down their political power. So if that's something that you're interested in, then you should vote for Democrats. All right, question mark says, will the Democrats win the Senate before the 2034 elections? I don't know. Nobody does. BitNevo says, Jarrett, the outgoing Colombian leader, is claiming voter fraud for an extreme right-wing leader. I did not see that. BitNevo says, Elon Musk seems way too interested in these elections on Esk. Is he interfering? I need to read a little bit more about that, BitNevo, before I start opining on it. But let's just say that I'm a little skeptical that Elon Musk is able to change any vote totals. But I also worry about shady shit happening in South American countries. All right, Mr. Bornaloo says, James Tallarico or Ken Paxton? Oh, Tallarico. Absolutely. Every fucking day of the week, Tallarico, All right, thank you to everybody who helped me reach my first gift goal. I did not get a chance to see who all contributed, but I very much appreciate it. All right, where's my hearts at? Where are my roses? Usually do a second rose. Where's my roses at? Oh, I think I just need to change the amount. How do I edit this? Oh boy, there's a new UI. All right, Crab says, the country that invaded the other country is to blame. That applies to all global conflicts. I mean, I am sure there are more complicated international scenarios, but generally speaking, yeah. Generally speaking, the person who threw the punch is the one to blame. Alrighty. Muzzy says, do you agree with the fact that Israel is committing G-side? Yeah. I mean, but it doesn't matter, like, what I think about that. I'm not a G-side expert, but all the G-side experts are saying that they're doing it. So, yeah, 100%. Hey, Tim's Health Journey. Thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. All right. Beezer says, why can't any politician say anything negative about Israel? There are a lot of politicians who say negative things about Israel. They're mostly Democrats, if you're curious. All right. KK says, what do you think about what Trump said? He said all immigrants should speak English. I don't think it's necessary for every immigrant to speak the language of the country that they're in. Muzzy did that already. Mr. White says America puts Western-leaning government in place and admits they did, but you say Russia started it. We did not install a Western-leaning government in Ukraine, Mr. White. I don't really know what you're talking about. Crab, I did that one. Isaiah says views on centrist people, cowards? Question mark. Reasonable people? Question mark. I don't know where I'm fall right now, but I think I'd still vote. Says Isaiah. Well, yeah, I think you should definitely vote. I am not a centrist myself. I understand every human being has a different motivation for having their political leanings, from MAGA to neocon to centrist Democrat to progressive Democrat. Like, it depends on how you grew up and what your media diet is, and did you graduate high school? Did you graduate college? Where did you graduate college? Where did you graduate high school? Do you go to church? Which church do you go to? There are so many factors that can affect what one's political leanings are, and many of those facts have exactly zero to do with that person's morality or intelligence. They're all just community based, or something random like that. So I don't blame anybody for their political leanings. I don't think that being a centrist or being a Republican is the move. If you pay attention to politics, it seems pretty clear that there are better politics to have than that. But if that's if you're sitting there thinking, I have these centrist beliefs that do not align with the progressive part of the Democratic Party, I want to hear what those are, and let's talk about it, and maybe we can help clear up some misunderstandings or whatever. KK says, did you know Obama said that? That Obama said that all the immigrants should speak English? All immigrants should speak English. I don't know if Obama said that or he didn't say that. But again, I don't think that immigrants need to speak the language of the country they're moving to. So, seems like what you're trying to do was like a oh my God, so that's a racist thing that somebody said. Well, did you know that Obama said that? I tricked you. I gotcha. So thankfully, I did not fall for that trick because I didn't go classic racist shit. All right, but I also don't even know if Obama said that. So okay, Josh Lopez says, what do we think about Trump losing his SA court case? Can you be more specific, Josh Lopez? Are you talking about E. Jean Carroll, or is there another one you're referring to? Muzzy says, do you not think that America being close ally with Israel says a lot about the executive? Well, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. What does it mean? It says a lot about the executive. Can you say more about that? I'm not really sure what that means. A.T. Lien says, will Republican congressmen support a third term in your opinion? Yeah. The MAGA has completely taken control of the Republican Party. So they are all going to be good soldiers and line up behind Trump, doing another January 6th, trying to run for a third term, canceling elections. The Republican Party is feckless. Every elected Republican is a coward who deserves to lose their job. KK says, glad to see you are not a crazy far left. I mean, I'm pretty far left, KK. Soccer fit, because Trump is a racist, KK. Like, let's be real. Trump is a racist. Even if he did or did not say that thing that you claim that Obama did or did not say, Trump is a racist person. Like, full stop. And I'm happy to go into more details than that if you like. Soccer fan says, so if Trump gets impeached, what happens? Does he have to step down as president? No. So critically, impeachment is two separate phases. There's the impeachment hearing, and then there's the removal from office vote. And the hearing happens in the House, and the remove from office happens in the Senate. The remove from office is a way higher bar than just being impeached. So Bill Clinton was impeached and not removed from office. Trump was impeached twice and not removed from office. And really, you being impeached really just has to do with who's in charge of the House of Representatives. If it's Democrats, then Trump is definitely getting impeached again because he has done wildly impeachable things. Okay, KK says, what did he say? He said that every brown person comes from a shithole country, KK. He said he didn't like black people counting his money. He liked little guys wearing yarmulkes counting his money. He refused to rent his apartments to black people, KK. I give you more examples if you like. Randy says, no, he not. No, Trump is a racist. Trump is like fully a racist. New Kid on the Talk says, Trump's mental and physical instability is a factor. Completely agree with that. Right. Tommy B. that says, what are the chances the DSC takes over the Democratic Party in the next 5 years? I don't love the language of take over. What's happening now is, number one, I would agree with Mamdani that the quote-unquote DSA candidates, the progressive candidates that are sort of like working their way into the Democratic Party, are kind of returning to what the Democratic Party used to be policy-wise. That's number one. Number two, this is the way that the system is supposed to work, where people vote for the candidates they want in the primary, and then those people are the candidates for the general election. Now, are you asking, are people more attracted to, are people becoming more and more attracted to candidates that have progressive values, like Mamdani, like El Sayed, like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, etc.? Yeah, I think that ideology has a lot of traction and momentum right now. There are still places in this country where centrist Democrats are winning their primaries over progressive Democrats, but I think that those progressive candidates have a lot of momentum, and I encourage that. I think that is the direction that I believe the party should go in. Soccer Fan says, why do we have such good relations with Israel? Because we have to, or we want to. Again, there's a lot of different ways to answer that question, Soccer Fan. I need you to be more specific. So why do we have a strong relationship with Israel? It's a very complicated question that's to do with like 60 years of shared history between the two countries. If you want to know like what's going on right now is that the Republican Party is in control of the White House and Congress, and they appear to be fully in lockstep with the Netanyahu government in Israel. And I do not believe that is a moral or legal thing for us to be doing, because the Netanyahu government is guilty of war crimes and genocide. And so if you agree with me, then you should vote for Democrats. Randy says, you are telling all lies. So that's not a question, Randy. And it's also not a very productive thing to say. Vin Surreal says, what's cheaper under Donald J. Trump? Nothing. KK says, so do you think all Republicans, even though they don't like Trump, are racist? Oh, no, absolutely not. If you're asking me about Republican voters, if you're asking me about Republican politicians, like I have different things to say about both. But Donald Trump, the human being, is a hardcore racist person and misogynist. He's homophobic as well. And Stephen Miller, Shadow President Stephen Miller, is also a hardcore racist and a homophobe and a misogynist. Okay, Larry Hall says, do you feel Trump is physically and mentally fit right now? No, I do not. I haven't felt like that in a long time. Okay. Cardinal Cray says, what does the left and right wing have in common? It's part of the same freedom eagle. Cardinal Craze, I do not allow people to come on my live stream and spread false narratives about how both the left and the right are equally bad or the same or owned and operated by the same moneyed interest. It's just not accurate. So if you want to talk more about that, I'm happy to. Okay, let's see here. Soccer Fan says, will Trump do anything to rig the midterms, but how will he do it? Ken S says, see, now you're lying. Can you tell me one thing that I have said, Ken S, that is inaccurate? I'm happy to engage on it. Soccer Fan, there are a couple of things that Trump has floated that he could potentially do to try to rig the midterms. It is unclear what exactly he will try to do. He has mused about seizing voting machines. He has mused about sending ICE to keep people from voting in Democratic areas. He has mused about forcing women to get like 10 different kinds of ID before they can vote, and so, drastically reducing the number of women that actually do vote. There's a bunch of shit. There's a bunch of shit that they will potentially try. I believe that we need to do the work of stopping it. Right. KK says, what do you think about Zohran Mamdani's wife? She celebrated October 7th. I do not believe that that is true at all. KK. Vin Surreal says, explain APAC. Sure, APAC is a far-right lobbying organization that is funded with American billionaire dollars, so it does not need to register as a lobbyist of a foreign government. The policies that APAC tends to champion are policies that are very near and dear to the Netanyahu government. So people have argued that it should register as a agent of a foreign government, but again, it's funded with American taxpayer with American billionaire dollars, so they don't really have to. Additionally, they use this justification of saying that they're not lobbying for Israel; they're lobbying for the relationship between America and Israel, which, you know, is a distinction without a difference. Yeah, they tend to put a lot of money into losing progressive Democrats their primary races, and they put a lot of money into losing Democrats their general election races because they would prefer far-right, extreme pro-Israel candidates to win, and that tends to be Republicans over Democrats. Tink and Muzzking, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. Would you like more information about APAC? Let me know. And we are moving on to Finger Hearts. It is Finger Hearts o'clock, everybody. Best time of the day. Best part of the year. Jack Ayer says, what's the biggest issue politically in America? Probably money in politics. Dave in Texas says, your position on the Democrats pawning their headquarters? Question mark. What do you mean pawning their headquarters, Dave in Texas? This is the first time I'm hearing of this thing that could potentially be completely inaccurate. Please let me tickle you says, can you give an in-depth explanation of the economy? I mean, that's a very big question. Can you be more specific about what you would like to know? Ian Moore says, stolen 2024 election. There is some interesting data to suggest that there was chicanery in 2024. Nothing that has been firmly established yet, nothing that is actionable yet. So we just kind of have to wait and see. Tink and Muzz King, thank you so much for helping me reach my first Finger Hearts goal of the day. KK says, liked Instagram posts that portrayed the Hamas attack on Israel in a positive or celebratory way. I gotta be honest, KK, I just doubt that. I doubt that really hardcore. So yeah, I find that to be extremely hard to believe. Dave in Texas says they mortgaged their own building. I don't know if that's true or not, Dave in Texas. I mean, it kind of makes sense because they're having a little bit of a fundraising issue right now with Ken Martin being DNC chair and everybody hating him. But yeah, I don't really have more complicated thoughts about it than that. Drew asks, what's the difference between socialism and communism? So you ask 100 different people to give you 100 different answers to this. Drew, here's the simplest way that I can explain it. Socialism is when we pay taxes and the government uses that money to pay for things that make all of our lives better. So paved roads is socialism. Public education is socialism. The military is socialism. The fire department is socialism. Ergo, we already have socialism in America. And in my opinion, we could use things like socialized healthcare and socialized public college and socialized housing, stuff like that. Where the private market has failed, socialism should step in. And any place where we need things that are too expensive is where the private market has failed. So notably, higher education, housing, and healthcare. Communism is when workers own the means of production. So any employee-owned company is essentially communist. You know, Bob's Red Mill is communist. Publix grocery stores is communist. And I think that that's dope. I think that companies should be owned by their employees. I think right now way too much benefit of workers' productivity is given to the top 1%. Just because somebody's the CEO or the owner or board of directors or whatever does not mean that you're entitled to 90% of the benefits of somebody's labor. So I am down with more employee-owned companies. Okay, John Abbott, good to see you again. Ecuadorian, do you think she'll win? I don't know anything about the Tennessee governor race, so sorry about that. Joey says, why are Democrats so against capitalism works the best, communism or socialism has work? That is inaccurate, Joey. Would you like me to go into more detail? Let me know. Chloe says, has J.D. Vance done any bad things? I don't know much about him. Oh, yeah, J.D. Vance is like a massive piece of shit. He gave a speech basically saying that you were value as an American depends on how many generations you've been an American, then you have to be a part of American culture. Like certain votes count more than other votes, basically. He said that only childless cat ladies like Kamala Harris. I could go on. He's a real fucking piece of work, that guy. Joey says, yes, go into more detail. Okay, so there's never been a communist or socialist country. So we don't know if communism or socialism would work in a totalitarian way. If you look at countries that call themselves communist or socialist, like China, Russia, or Venezuela, they're not actually communist or socialist. They are authoritarian. They are tyrannical. And that is antithetical to both of those political philosophies. You can find examples of communism and socialism working even here in America, where every employee-owned company is basically communist, and things like paved roads and public schools are socialist. Now, capitalism has a lot of flaws. We are watching it happen in real time. Like, as people are being forced to live out on the street and not be able to afford housing or food or to pay their bills or to send their kids to college, like that, those are failures of capitalism. Everywhere that a town has been poisoned by a factory or an AI data center, every child that gets cancer because of air pollution, or like that is a failure of capitalism right there. Like the free market is supposed to solve all those problems, right? Like we're all supposed to stop shopping at the companies that are doing all this polluting. That doesn't seem to be working, you know? So yeah, there's the reason why everybody hates capitalism, Joey. Soccer fan says, do you think North Korean Kim Jong-un government will ever fall? Yeah, I mean, basically every authoritarian government will fall eventually. Ooh, okay, KK says it was on the CBS News and ChatGPT said it was true. So ChatGPT is every AI is sus. Like you have to double check everything that you hear on an AI. I recently asked AI to help me do some like home improvements. I went to the hardware store and asked for the thing that AI told me to get, and they were like, "Yeah, that's not a thing that exists. That's not a real thing." So you really have to double check everything that you see on ChatGPT or whatever. Okay, let's scroll up on some of these comments. All right, John Abbott says, where the private market has failed, and he says, nah, anywhere that something is necessary for people to survive, the private market should never be allowed an opportunity to fail. Ooh, I'm completely down with that, John Abbott. I fucks with that opinion. I haven't fully thought it out, so it's possible that somebody gives me a convincing argument for it not being accurate, but it smells good to me. KK says, what about CBS News? Again, I would need to double check. I would need to look at it because sometimes headlines can be misleading. Sometimes buried in the article are the explanations or rationalizations for the thing that does look bad. And again, I don't know if that's true, KK. I don't know who you are. You could be making this up. Jennifer says, Google AI gets a lot of answers from Reddit. Does that mean it's more or less accurate, Jennifer? K. Cuff says, what's your take on data centers? They need to be regulated. And the way that they are being built right now is irresponsible and exploitive. And so I am down with regulating data centers and AI to the tits. And I am down with the moratoriums if we want to just like stop all this construction from happening right now until we can get more of a handle on these fucking these runaway train AI companies. Okay, I don't know who's better, Ronaldo or Messi. Let's see here. Okay, scrolling up, 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 scrolling up. All right, yeah. Let's see here. Conalingua. I'm not reading that, Conalingua. That's a step too far. All right, everybody. Ooh, hold on a second. John Abbott, CBS News has not been a reliable source for information since Trump administration let the Ellisons buy it and start messing with it. KK, there you got your answer, KK. I completely forgot that was it Barry Weiss took over CBS News and now they're fully unreliable. So yeah, KK, just there we got another piece of information there for you. CBS News Not reliable. KK says, view on Sharia law. I am very, very much not concerned about Sharia law, as I don't live in a country that has it. The far right radical Christians that are currently in charge of our government are attempting to put us in America under Christian law. KK. So, do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with the current Republican administrations ignoring the separation between church and state? KK, let me know. Alrighty, thank you, Conolingo. I'm just a comedian rhyming jokes on the commentators. No, you're good, Conolingo. You're good, man. K-Cop says, do you believe today's children have a bright future in the U.S.? I do not believe that the future of today's children is set in stone. I believe that there are certain things that make being a kid today very difficult and certain things that make it a lot easier than previous generations. Whether or not that trend continues to make things easier for kids or worse for kids is anybody's guess. There are certain things that we do know, like we know that literacy rates are plummeting. We know that screens and artificial intelligence are a massive drain on children's ability to learn and comprehend complex ideas. So yeah, there are certain very specific difficulties for today's youths that I'm definitely worried about. Ace Enclave, good to see you again, says, what is the billionaire's plan when the earth is so hot to live, air is, food is bad, and people hate them so much? So my theory on this is that the billionaires believe that they can... Whoa! What the fuck just happened? Does anybody know what this is and how this happens? Was this a gift that was given? Was it a nice gift? It was definitely not in my language, so I don't know. All right, well, yeah, your guess is as good as mine, everybody. All right, what in the world was I even fucking talking about? Children in the future, yeah. KK says, it's a gift. Oh, okay, sweet. Well, thank you, KK, I appreciate that. But you didn't answer my question. How do you feel about Christian law? How do you feel about the separation of church and state? Alrighty. Whistle britches. KK says I don't live in the USA. Do you have separation of church and state in Germany? KK, is that where you're from? Do you like the AFD party in Germany, KK? I sure hope you don't. Right. Oh, I was in the middle of answering your billionaire question. Ace Enclave. Yes. Okay. So I believe that the billionaire class thinks that all of these sort of like apocalypses that we are barreling towards, they believe that their money can help them survive it, and that it will instead just end up sort of like culling all the poor, and sort of like creating a new dynamic where they're like the new kings and queens because they have access to like all the technology and the resources. You ever see that Mad Max Fury Road movie, and there's that dude, something Joe, Blanca Joe or whatever his name was, and he controlled all the water, and so everybody was like his slave, basically. That's what the billionaires want to create. They want to create that world. And if they have to kill 5 billion people in order to do it, then they're down with that. They'll just hang out in their underground bunkers for a couple of years until things stabilize, then they'll come out. Theater Bomb says, where are they going to get their labor? From the people that survive. T says, Ted Kaczynski Jr. here? No, that ain't me, T. Ask a question or leave. What is up, Noah? Good to see you again. Joey says, if communism is so good, why did we fight a war over trying to contain communism? So, again, Joey, you're conflating a bunch of different things here. Like, I'm saying that communism is when a company is employee owned, and you're saying that communism is what we fought during the Cold War, which are two different things. Like, we were fighting an authoritarian nation in Russia. So, and also, that was part of a Red Scare thing where like a bunch of billionaires were trying to convince people that communism was bad, so they just kind of like started labeling everything they hated as communists. Right. Chama says, should we invest more into nuclear power? There's like a new kind of nuclear reactor that's like really small and doesn't take 10 years to build. And I'm like down with that. But if you're asking me, should we be doing more nuclear reactors that take like 10 years to build? I don't think so at all. Like in the next 10 years, we could potentially see nuclear fusion technology, which would be basically limitless free energy for the rest of time. And so I do not want to be halfway through a nuclear fission power plant when that shit comes online. Additionally, we are seeing the cost of other renewable technologies plummet, like wind and hydroelectric and solar. So yeah, 10 years we could basically be completely fossil fuel free before the first nuclear reactor that we start building today gets finished. Ooh, right. Guerrero says billionaires want socialism only for them. They're the biggest welfare queens. That is accurate, Guerrero. Okay, Gustaco says nuclear energy is the greenest energy in the world. I don't think that's true, Gustaco. Joey says any communist country that exists right now, for example, North Korea, shoots people for trying to leave. Joey, North Korea is not a communist country. They don't even call themselves communist. Joey, so every time you've asked me about this, every time you've come at me with this, I have told you what I believe communism is. I have told you that there has never been a communist country, and that communism is when workers own the means of production. So employee-owned companies like Bob's Red Mill and Publix grocery store. What do you think communism is? Maybe we should have two different words for the two different things that we're talking about, because I am not trying to live in a country like you are describing. I'm trying to live in a country like I am describing. But when I describe the kind of country that I want to live in, you say that's communist, and also so is North Korea. Do you see where the disconnect is? William says that you are MAGA. It doesn't matter if he's MAGA or not. If he's here in good, operating in good faith, then he's allowed to stay. But how he reacts to this specific thing that I am saying right now is indicative of whether or not he will be allowed to stay. KK says, I'm not German, I'm French. And the government is center left in Paris's most dangerous city in the EU. I don't know if that's accurate, KK. Do you like Marine Le Pen, KK? Because again, I sure hope you don't. Sick Enemy says, nuclear power is the safest and cleanest form of energy. Again, I think that is pretty demonstrably untrue. Theater Bomb says, doesn't the economy require population growth to grow? So short answer, yes. Longer answer, kinda, Theater Mom. Right now, the economy is kind of built on a growth model, meaning that your company does not get to be successful if it sort of like maintains at a specific level. That really the economy has to always be growing, and companies have to always be growing in order for it to be a success. Now, many people have argued, and I include myself as one of them, that we need to change to more of a sustainability model for the economy where things kind of like reach a balance. Because the earth is limited in its capacity, both for humans and in resources. All right, let's see here. All right, Heinz Olmotrov says, how many of the developments in democratic socialism in the U.S. do you attribute to Bernie Sanders? What do you think about the influence of people like Hassan Piker? I mean, I think Bernie Sanders is great, but I think that he is just one piece of many people who are doing the work. And Bernie Sanders himself will tell you that, like he said that during his first presidential campaign, where he was like, it doesn't really matter who becomes president. What matters is, how many people do we have who believe in this ideology within the government, because the president can only do so much. So yeah, and what do I think about the influence of people like Hassan Piker? I think that Hassan Piker is right about like 85% of his opinions, but he's also like, said some wildly irresponsible things that I do not endorse and do not condone. The biggest example that I can make of this is when he goes out there on the podcast and says that if Gavin Newsom is the nominee, that he's not going to vote in the general election. And I'm like, that is a wildly irresponsible thing to say. Like, you can like or hate Gavin Newsom, I don't give a fuck. But if the year of our Lord 2026, you are not advocating for voting for better politicians over worse politicians, for any Democrat over any Republican, like, what the fuck are you doing, my guy? Robert Drake says, how do you feel about Trump stealing nuclear secrets? I'm against it. Robert Drake. I'm mad that he did that. Green Bay says, who's going to win the midterms? Nobody knows Green Bay, so do the work for whatever outcome you want to happen. Okay, Fog of War, great to see you again. Ooh, new profile picture, very exciting. Fog of War says, one thing I hope the DSA progressive types can come around to is an unhinged Bill Clinton hate. I'm not mad at that take, Fog of War. I'm really not. I got exactly zero allegiance to the Clintons. I think that we should be clear-eyed about the good that the Clintons have done, but we also have to be really clear-eyed about what is toxic and terrible about them. Ooh, ready. Scrolling. KK says, not sure why you don't like her. I prefer Jordan Bardella. Marie Le Pen is a far-right extremist, and so I do not care for far-right extremists. Yeah, Joey, still waiting for you to answer my question about communism, Joey. Doesn't seem like you're at all interested in engaging on the substance. Seems like you're just trying to push a very specific narrative, Joey. Okay. Guero says, our government looks like a nursery home without the caretakers. Yeah, whoever said that Congress is the world's greatest nursing home retirement community was accurate. Ace Enclave says, what's the difference between democratic socialism and socialism? It depends how you are defining these terms, Ace Enclave. So, Ace Enclave. I like saying your name like that, Ace Enclave, though I'm sure it's just Ace. So let's see here. Democratic socialism is, take the policies of people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and James Tallarico and Mamdani and Abdullah Sayed. Like, that's what democratic socialism is. Let's tax the rich. Let's use that money to help people. Let's do some progressive shit that's good for most people in the country. We don't need billionaires. That's the Democratic Socialist platform, amongst other things. Socialism is a little bit more of a wide topic. Like, if you're advocating for like a socialist economic policy, you're basically saying like, I think that some private industries should have to compete with the government. So like having universal healthcare would make it so that private healthcare would then have to compete with a government-run healthcare program. Paved roads is socialism. Public education is socialism. But there's also a different version of socialism that's much more totalitarian, where you're not allowed to open up a grilled cheese restaurant. You're not allowed to do that. The only grilled cheeses that are allowed to get sold are USA grilled cheeses. That only government-run enterprises are allowed. So I guess one could argue that if you describe yourself as a socialist, like that's the world that you're going for. But again, like I don't know anybody who's like that. I don't know any people who that's their ideal version of America. Ooh, righty. KK says she is far left. I can do the same. Question mark. I don't like Mamdani. He is extreme left. KK, can you tell me a specific policy of Mamdani's that you don't like? Like, when I hear people describing politicians as extreme left, I'm like, what does that mean? Does that mean universal health care? Or do you think there's like something else, something negative in the philosophy of being a far left extremist? Shork asks, has Sharia law taken over Michigan? No, and I'm pretty sure you knew that. Kana Lingua says, if we can agree long-term focus will help everyone, then act upon it, everything will get better faster. Completely agree with that. Alrighty. Fog of War says, everything you hate about Reagan was institutionalized by Bill Clinton. He is underhated. Ooh, I don't know how much I'm going to agree with that, Fog of War Productions. I can think of just a bunch of things off the top of my head where Bill Clinton kind of like reversed track from the Reagan model. And also, there is an argument to be made, Fog of War, and let me know what you think about this, that sometimes politicians do what they can in the time in which they are active. Like, I wonder if Bill Clinton could wave a magic wand and tax the rich more than he did, or tax giant corporations more than he did, if he would have. I wonder how much of Bill Clinton being neoliberal centrist is because he was president during the 90s when everybody still had a hard on for trickle down economics, Reaganomics, shit like that. Let me think about that. K Cuff says, take on the housing markets. I don't really know what's going on with the housing markets. I think that the private industry has failed. If homes are too expensive for people, then the private industry has failed. So we should have socialized housing. All right, D. Smith says Reagan changed to tax codes and corporations being treated as people led us here. Yeah, that's generally accurate. Oreo says, how is it that POTUS can waive 29 safety protections to build a wall in Big Bend National Park? Because the people that would stop him are all loyalists to him. So Trump can do whatever he wants because Congress is not going to stop him, and the Supreme Court is not going to stop him because they bend the knee. They bend the knee to Donald Trump, which is not the way that America is supposed to work. It's supposed to be checks and balances. It's supposed to be, nobody can do authoritarian king shit because the other branches are looking over the shoulder of the other branches. But that's not the way that Republicans govern. Republicans govern like Trump is king and he's allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants. KK says, but you did the same for Marine Le Pen. I mean, I could tell you like Marine Le Pen is demagoguing immigrants, KK. Like I can tell you that Marine Le Pen believes in blaming immigrants for things that are not their problem, for things that they did not cause, among other things, KK. I can tell you that Marine Le Pen is not an economic populist, that she believes in cutting social programs in exchange for cutting taxes for the wealthy, KK. So yeah, I am not. It's not that somebody told me that Marine Le Pen was a far-right extremist and then I decided to hate her because of it. It's because of her policies, and her policies make her a far-right extremist. But again, where are we on Mamdani, KK? KK says, are the buses free yet? I believe they're working on it, KK. Righty. KK says, so wanting secure borders is extremist. No, that is not what Marine Le Pen's position is, KK. Most everybody is for secure borders. It is factually inaccurate to suggest that people on the left do not want secure borders. Funkytron says, even if I hate Trump, do you think election-wise running off Trump's name is a losing argument now? So many people would say that, Funkytron. I don't know why that's the case. The damage and corruption of the Trump administration and the fact that the Republican Party is complicit in it, to me, that's enough to vote against every single currently elected Republican politician and every Republican politician for at least another generation. But some people need more than that, I guess. Like when some people are like, you got two options, you got a chicken sandwich, you got a shit sandwich. Some people are like, sell me on the chicken sandwich. It's not enough that you just want to avoid a shit sandwich. Like, I don't know, man. So, but politicians have heard that message, and the Democratic Party has heard that message. So they are differing in their messaging strategy. Like, I don't believe that there is any Democrat out there that is exclusively campaigning on being anti-Trump. Funkytron says, for example, instead of running off Trump, run on policies how to improve without mentioning him. Yeah, Funkytron, it's interesting. The messaging arguments, people will have different opinions on what is good and what is bad messaging, but the messaging doesn't get decided as whether it was good or it was bad until we figure out who won the election. So the Republican Party wins more elections than they should because the electoral systems are skewed in their favor. Things like the Electoral College and the Senate map and gerrymandering make it easier for Republicans to win elections than for Democrats. And so they are viewed as these messaging geniuses just because they win more elections than they should. But if you examine their messaging strategy in a bubble, like I would never say that that's a good messaging strategy. So for as many people as will tell you that Democrats should not mention Trump when they are campaigning, There are other people who would tell you that you have to talk about Trump because Trump is the current president and the things that he is doing are fucking monstrous and actively hurting people in America. So, yeah, I think probably a mixed messaging strategy is your best bet, like a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but you know, I'm also very I'm bullish on the Democratic Party's messaging strategy. I think that people tend to rake it over the coals unfairly, in my opinion. Alrighty, Fog of War, I see that you've been messaging up a storm about the Clintons. Let's see here. I want to make sure that I'm seeing all the important information here. Fog of War says, I mean, that seems like a better question for the good Senator Bernie Sanders. He was his opposition. Also, I just took my sleeping pills, so we'll see how off the rails I get. What time is it where you live, Fog of War, that you're taking your sleeping pills now? You created the exact building blocks that led to the rise of Trump. Again, Fog of War, I don't know if I would agree with that entirely. Boston Celtics says, should we abolish Alabama? No. There's value everywhere in this country. Soccer fans says, I understand how the U.S. went to get Maduro out, but they left the same regime he had in there. It's because what Trump wanted was not a better life for the people living in Argentina. Not Argentina. Venezuela. Trump did not want a better life for the people living in Venezuela. He wanted Venezuela's oil revenue. And Maduro was not going to give it to him, but the lady, his vice president, who's now currently in charge, is giving it to him, so she's allowed to stay. Otherwise, the SEALs would go back in and take her too. Gotcha, Fog of War. Night person. All right, KK says, the far left wants wide open borders, no weapons for the police officers, and no cameras. No, that is not true, KK. Mia says, how do I change our prison system? Ooh, that's a good one, Mia. And I'm not 100% sure. There might be some, like, specific leverage points that we could use, like, can we, do you live in a state where for-profit prisons are allowed? Do you live in a state where the DA or the AG are being overly punitive and you believe you could vote in a better one? I think it really has to do with where you live, and if what we're trying to do is have a better federal philosophy towards prison, as opposed to let's take down for-profit prisons. Let's make it, let's lower recidivism rates. There's a lot there. Genetic Talk says, should blue states secede? No, I do not believe that we should. Funkytron says, do you think Ahmed would run sometimes? And if you had to choose between him and AOC, you talking about, do I think that Abdul El-Sayed? Or who's Ahmed? Who are you talking about, Funkytron? Let's see here. Mia says, let's make sure they get vocational education while they're in there. Yeah, 100%. And let's train the police also. Seems like that would be a good. Abdul, yeah. I don't know if Abdul El-Sayed ever wants to run for president. I don't really have strong feelings about him versus AOC, like which one I like better. They both seem like pretty cool to me. I don't really love the sort of like horse race version of politics, like who's better, who's worse. I like living in the more generic, like, are they generally good? Are they generally bad? Are they a little bit better? Are they a little bit worse? Abdul El-Sayed and AOC, they both seem pretty good to me. KK, I do not believe that the far left in France is like that. I believe that right-wing billionaires want you to believe that so that you vote for people that are further to the right. All right, Sociology says, Mark Elias was key to litigating 20 and confirmed legitimacy. Why did he do none of that for 24? I don't know, actually. I guess he looked and saw that there was nothing there. I've heard Mark Elias talking, and it seems as though he is laser focused on 2026. So yeah, I would be really curious to hear if he has any thoughts about 24. My guess is that he just didn't see any evidence that there was anything to look into in 24. Okay, let's see here. Funkytron says Abdullah AOC combo with Mamdani as the New York governor. Yeah, that seems pretty dope to me. I like that. Okay, Soccer Fan says, do you think Charlie Kirk was a good guy? No, very much not. He was not a good guy. He was toxic to the culture. He was a political hack and a con artist. He was a liar. I don't think he should have gotten assassinated, but I definitely do not endorse him as a human being or any of his philosophies. KK says, I've seen videos of far left politicians wanting to do something. I don't know. Triska says, Francesca Hong needs more support by the progressives. If she wins, will they embrace her? I believe so. Yeah, I mean, she's the progressive candidate, right, Triska? I think the issue right now is that she's a somewhat flawed candidate, and the centrist who's running is also a somewhat flawed candidate. So I think most people are like they're both fine, and so whoever wins will just support them. Okay, Ace Enclave says, my plan for lowering houses is making abandoned malls that have been abandoned for 1 year or more be apartment-style housing, costing $207 a month, and we get like homeless people to build them so they can get more money, maybe buy the apartments. I don't know. It's not a bad idea, you know? The thing about malls is there's not a lot of natural lighting in malls, and that's kind of monstrous, forcing people to live in those kind of conditions. Let's see here. Okay. Ace and Clay says to fix the prison system by shoving down the throat of democratic socialists that for-profit prisons are doing slavery still to get the ball rolling. Honestly, how do you find hope in this world with all the bullshit that is going on? Asks Ace and Clave. That's my favorite question, Ace and Clave, is how do you find hope in this world with all the bullshit that's going on? So the first thing I would say is that the people that are in charge, and when I say the people in charge, I mean the billionaire class and the Republican Party and right-wing politicians, they want you to be hopeless. They want you to give up. They want you to think that resistance is futile. They want you to be pessimistic about the future and about the political process. They want you to give up. And so part of the ways that I maintain hope is because me having hope is, in essence, a fuck you to the people in power. It is a fuck you to the billionaire class. It's a fuck you to the Trump administration, to the Republican Congress that is allowing him to get away with all this shit, to the Republican and billionaire-controlled Supreme Court that is allowing them to get away with all this shit. They are, every Christmas, the number one thing on their list is for us to give up hope and for us to become cynical. And so I refuse to give them that Christmas present. And instead, every Christmas, I send them a letter that says, suck my butthole, you weird-ass dorks. I am going to continue to have hope. I am going to continue to do the work. The other thing is self-care. You know, like it can get too much if you're just paying attention to politics 24/7. It can be a lot to try to consistently maintain hope and positivity and to continue doing the work of trying to make positive change happen. So you do your self-care. Like this Friday, I went and saw Spider-Man, and it was like it was a great day. It was a totally fucking dope-ass day. When I got out of work, I went to the gym. Fucking love the gym. Go to the gym, sit in the sauna for a little bit, come home, play with the wife, play with the baby. And then when the baby went to sleep, I went to the movies. I got myself a little cappuccino and a little chocolatey ice cream treat. And I watched the new Spider-Man movie, which was pretty good. You know? And because of that, because I had a really nice Friday and Saturday and Sunday, of course, now I'm able to come out here and do the work again. Alrighty. Theater Bomb says, do you think Mitch is alive? I mean, I didn't think he was alive when he was not in the hospital, so I definitely don't think that he's alive now. Okay. Dr. Disinfectant says, is Trump surrendering to Iran? That is a really good question. I have got no fucking idea what is going on with Trump and Iran. There is nothing that I would like more than if Trump just stopped paying attention to Iran and we just kind of like did like a soft end to the war. Like there's no No treaty, no nothing. We just all of our you know, what do you call it? All of our aircraft carriers can go to port so that all the sailors on those boats can have mold-free showers and eat some real fucking food for once. Like apparently they're all being fucking tortured out in the middle of the ocean right now because they've been to sea for so long. So yeah, he's between a rock and a hard place, and he did it himself. He dug this hole for himself. You know, we are losing this war every day worse than we lost it the day before. So the best thing we can do now is to stop throwing good money after bad and stop wasting human lives. And just stop. Just stop the war. Just stop it now. Well, excuse me, everybody. All right, Funkytron says, is Hasan the left and then Destiny is like the right of the center? Who do you prefer, if any, and would you agree with? I think they're both valuable and right in certain regards. You probably find me closer to Hasan than to Destiny, but you know, you could also argue that I'm like directly in between the two. You know, the places where they disagree would largely be on Israel, I think, and also versus how aggressively anti-capitalist you want to be. But my guess is that they probably agree more than they disagree on things. Fogor says, don't you mean Iran and a heart? But bumps. Sasuke says, politics so boring. Work on yourselves. Be with your loved ones. Smile. The world is beautiful. Okay, but what about Renee Good, Sasuke? What about Alex Preddy? What about their families? What about the families of everybody that died? All those schoolgirls that got bombed in Iran. What about them, Sasuke? Is the world a beautiful place for them? Do you think that they would like it if? Oh, you don't care about the families of people that were murdered by ICE or American bombs or anything like that, Sasuke? Seems like kind of a shitty philosophy that you have there to not care about other people. That you're cool with ignoring politics so long as it doesn't affect you. You know. There's this poem, Sasuke. No, I don't know them. I just know myself. Okay, well, there's this poem, this famous poem. First they came for the socialists, and I said nothing because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the communists, and I said nothing because I was not a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I said nothing because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the blacks, and I said nothing because I wasn't black. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Are you aware of this? Are you aware of this poem, Sasuke? I think that the lesson is something valuable for you, very specifically. Let's see here. Sonia DeBoss says, www Jarrett. Is that World Wide Web Jarrett or win-win-win Jarrett? All right. T. Rockin says, how long does Trump have left? Parentheses, cankles. I gotta go, guys. I'm tired. I don't know. I think that Trump probably passes away before his term is over, but pieces of shit have a tendency of living forever. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. All right, everybody, hold on a second. Sasuke says, well, see if they come. For now, I'm only man in this mortal world. You're the only one. Yeah, okay, Sasuke. Oy, 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 oy. All right, everybody. There are lots of ways to support the show. If you like what I'm doing, if you think what I'm doing is productive, if you think what I'm doing is helping, I would really appreciate your support. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send bits on Twitch. You can be a fan on TikTok. That's free. You can be a super fan on TikTok. That's a subscription. You can subscribe to my Twitch channel. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel for free. Costs you $0, helps me out a ton, so I would really appreciate it if you did that. You could also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. There will be no show this Wednesday, no live stream this Wednesday, because I got some family coming into town. Ooh, Heinz Monterez says the quote about the political literate by Bertolt Brecht might apply better. Do you have that ready? Is it short enough that it will fit in the chat box? Heinz, put it in, man. There's also a poem called The Hangman that is very long and that I do not have memorized. I also don't have the other one memorized either. I was just kind of, you know, paraphrasing it. But yeah, Heinz, put it in the chat, my guy, if you can. Let's see here. Yeah, be part of the culture, be part of the community of this show. Shoot me a DM, email me through my website, join my Discord, and do the work, because the work is the only way that we will be able to get out of this. KK says, thoughts on this Quran quote, slay unbelievers wherever you see them. All right, well, what about that Bible verse that says that it's okay to stone your wife if she plants crops that are different next to each other, KK? You are aware that there's a lot of violence and murder and misogyny and justifications for rape and murder and slavery in the Bible, right, KK? Right? KK, are you with me on this, KK? What do you think? What do you think about this, KK? Because I mean, you're putting a shitty quote from the Quran, but there's shitty quotes in the Bible too. Would you like me to find some for you? I'm happy to. You know. All right. Looks like I'm gonna have to call it before my friend Heinz or before KK can get back to me. So do the work, everybody. KK says, never said I was a Christian, but look at Christian countries and look at Muslim countries. Oh boy, KK, that's a fucking minefield. I do not have the energy or the time to unpack the things that are wrong about what you just said, KK. But come back. Come back tomorrow or come back Thursday or Friday. Again, there's no show this Wednesday, everybody. And I'll happily get into why that is an inaccurate sentiment that you have put there, KK. All right, everybody, be good to each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. Remember, no show on Wednesday, but tomorrow's Tuesday, so I will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye. 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 Oh, no. Hold on a second. Heinz finally put the thing in there. The worst illiterate is the political illiterate. He doesn't hear, doesn't speak, nor participates in the political events. He doesn't know the cost of life, the price of beans, of the shoes, and of the medicine. All depends on political decisions. Ooh, I do like that. Drone! Good to see you. It's been a minute. I haven't seen you in a while. All right.